Yes, right, BB.
Hello, Professor.
Hello.
Hey, Esther, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm okay.
How is the weather taking you?
I mean, you know, it's a little cold. I
Crazy.
think it's good. Of course, I know in California, we always say right now it's good. We need the rain, and it's very true. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
How about you? How's it treating you?
It's being my first time driving on the freeway with the rain, so I'm a little scared, but
Good afternoon, Professor, and everyone.
Kamgar. Yeah, go slow, you know. It's people still drive crazy, you know.
yeah, that's what I'm scared about. But so far, so good.
Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Hey, Khaled, how's you? Just saying hi as you come in. We'll see. So far, a little small group today, guys. Are you guys tired like I am in week 10? I'll still wait a few minutes, but usually we've got a few more people here at 5:02, but it's good. Hey, Fazia.
Hi, Professor. How are you?
I'm okay. Like I said, a little tired, but I'm okay. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Maybe everyone is just thinking or working on grammar writing too. So we'll wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Verbs today, guys. Verb tenses. We don't have to think about parts of speech today. We don't have to think about clauses today. We'll do a little review of what I asked you to do for grammar writing too. But Verbs and verb tenses, kind of, classic ESL grammar class stuff. So we'll do some of that today. For my 5 people who are here, or if you're watching the recording, that's what we're doing today.
I have a question, Professor,
Sure, baby.
from my writing too.
Mhm.
Actually, I tried to finish my writing and submit it, but I submitted 3 times. So do I have another chance for a rewrite?
Be fine.
when I submitted 3 times, I realized, oh, I lost all my time.
That's the
my
max.
chance. Yeah.
I'll fix it right now. Good question. And no
Um,
problem. No problem at all.
Okay. I just
It'll be
thank
just,
you, Professor.
of course, it'll be just like last time. Hopefully I can grade fast like last time. I am behind in one of my writing classes. This weekend was very long and stressful. But yeah, you'll have this. Let me make sure I change this though, BB, because that's not a problem at all.
So first, I think the first time I submit my first writing, and then when I check it, it was the first writing. So accidentally I did it 3 times.
I'll just change it to 6. Hey, why not? Okay,
Oh, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
no problem at all. I'm sure you are not the only one, BB, so no problem at all. Zuhal's here too.
Hello, Professor.
Hi there. Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe we have a very small class today. I hope that everybody's okay. And like I said, maybe people are just working on grammar writing too. But maybe let's get started here. Since we've got such a small group, if you're there and you want to, how are you guys? How are you, BB? How are you? Are you guys okay? How are you feeling?
I am good, Professor, but lots of homework, lots of writing, so
Is it
a little bit hard.
for other classes too?
Yeah, I have a writing class and a math class, so I have a lot of
Maybe it's a
work to do.
stressful week in the semester. Okay.
I think that's really yes.
That's why we only have 6 students. How about anybody else?
What happened?
Esther, how are you? Are you okay? Really busy? What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing good. A little busy working.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like work for school or just work for?
but
Okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, good. Cool. Anybody else? Just quick check-in since we've got such a small group. How are you guys doing? Is anybody else got lots of other lessons or assignments, or how are you guys?
Good, thank you, Professor.
And how about you, Suhal? Other classes? Do you have other big projects? Is it a busy?
No, I have only one class, this class, grammar class, but I'm busy with my 3 kids, my baby, and
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Well, you're doing it smart, Zuhal. One class. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, because I cannot get a lots of class because my baby is only 11 months and I have to take care of her, and
Baby.
I have 2 boys and I have to help their homework, and that's it.
Of course. Of course. Cool.
Yeah.
Glad.
she's lucky.
Yeah. Esther.
Thank you.
Hey, but remember, she's got 3 kids that she's in charge of,
Yeah.
Okay. It's like another class. I'm taking 3 more classes, so
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think that might be it for a lot of people. We've got Arifa and Vanessa
Hi,
coming.
Professor.
Yeah, there, Arifa. Yeah, it is that time of the semester, right? Where maybe people have midterms or tests and essays and other classes. So believe me, I'm tired too, but it's really good to see you guys. It's good to see the people who are here. Let's get started, even though we've got a little tiny class, that's okay. So if you're not here with us, I hope that you follow along and watch the video. And I always say this when we have a smaller Zoom group, but please, if you're not here, you're watching the recording and you have questions, text, email, come to office hours. I am happy to give more explanation about any of the things that we talk about today, okay? So
Okay.
Tuesday, October 26th. Here it is, week 10 of the fall semester. We're getting there. It's almost November, you guys. So here's our warm-up for today. I'm sorry, here's our agenda for today. So I've got a short warm-up activity to make sure that I answer any last-second questions about grammar writing 2. Then, like I said at the beginning, today is about verb tenses. So we're going to talk a little bit about verb tenses. And remember, this is different than verb phrases, which we've been talking about for 2 or 3 weeks. So we're going to talk a little bit about the simple past and the present perfect and the present perfect progressive. And if we have time, we'll talk about the past perfect. But if we don't talk about past perfect today, we will definitely do it next week. So again, more verb tense stuff today. So that's what we've got going on today. But first, before we talk about verb tenses, I wanted to just do a short, what's going on with my, I guess it doesn't matter. A very short warm up. I don't know what this box is. I'm going to let it go. That will help us. Remember, this is the same activity that I'm asking you to do for grammar writing 2. I think some of you have already turned this in. Other people have not yet. No problem. But these are just a couple example sentences from some of the discussion activities for the person you admire. So I wanted to just do the same thing together as a warm up for the class. So all we're looking for is number of clauses. How many? The subject noun phrase in each clause, the verb phrase, and then the verb forms. So here's the first sentence to practice for our warm-up. He is a civil engineer, and he designs, builds, supervises, and constructs big infrastructure projects. That's the sentence. And we're, again, just doing what I asked you to do for grammar writing 2. So let's start. Can anyone look from the sentence right away? How many clauses do I have in this sentence?
2.
Okay, if we think we have 2, where's our, let's
3
start.
classes. I think 3 classes.
Well, let's talk about it. Where is our first verb?
Is
I agree. And where's the subject noun phrase for that first verb?
he.
I agree. So we got one, right? We've definitely found one clause. Clause number 1. He. And what's my verb phrase? What's the entire verb phrase?
Is a civil engineer.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And what about the verb form? What do we have here?
Is it a state verb? Main verb?
Yeah, I think so. This is the verb, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have an auxiliary. We don't have a modal. We don't have a present participle, past participle. We don't have any of that stuff, right? We've just got a nice, clean, simple verb, right? So how about our next clause? We know, well, there's my coordinating conjunction, right? So, and he designs, builds, supervises, and constructs big infrastructure projects. Where's my verb?
Design, build, and supervises.
I hear Vivi.
And constructs.
Designs, builds, supervises, constructs. Yes, Bibi, and if people have questions, let's talk about this, but Bibi is correct. I know we talked about this last week, and then I saw one of you wrote a sentence like this with, again, what we can call a compound verb, right? This doesn't always happen in English, but it is possible, right? Because I've got all these verbs, right, in the present simple tense, S on the end. And so again, I've got, clause number 2. My subject NP again is just he. Well, I can't see the color. Forgive me about that, you guys. And then, so our verb phrase, just like in the first sentence, is everything that comes after the pronoun. So he designs, builds, supervises, and constructs big infrastructure project. Good. So then when we have one of these examples, Ina says hi in the chat. Hey, Ina. When we have one of these examples,
Hi.
one subject, but a bunch of these different compound verbs, what are we going to list for the verb forms here?
design, build, supervise, and contact all of the verb.
Excellent.
Main verb.
Excellent. Good, good. I agree. Good. And big infrastructure projects. I know some people were thinking, okay, 2 or 3 clauses, but this is just our object, right? These are the things, the big infrastructure projects. Big is an adjective, infrastructure is an adjective, projects is the noun. Both of these words modify the noun projects. Those are objects, right? That's the thing that he designs, builds, supervises, and constructs, right? So again, I wanted to show you this as a way to practice and review, but also this is a student sentence, right? One of you guys wrote this, and it's a good example of it's possible to have more than one verb in one clause, as long as it all goes back to the subject, noun, phrase, and we've got some kind of conjunction to connect those different verbs together, okay? I've got one more warm up, but any questions about this sentence? It's not the most complicated, but there's still some interesting stuff going on. So any questions? Cool. I'm happy. If it makes sense, I'm happy. And I saw a few more people coming in. Hi, Anna. Hi, Ina. Hi. Who else came in? Parisa. Hi, you guys.
Hi. I have a question, Professor.
Please. Is it about this sentence?
No, no, actually.
Okay.
It's about the conjunction between the sentence. I have a question. That can be a conjunction in a sentence?
That?
Yes. After that could be a clause, yeah?
Yeah. Well, after that. So just those 2 words, Parisa, after that?
No. No, I mean the whole
yes.
sentence. Yeah.
Yes, if that is a conjunction, if
Yes.
that is a subordinating conjunction that's linking 2 clauses, absolutely. So if the word that is a conjunction, then
Yeah.
whatever comes after it will be a clause. Could be a
Yes.
clause. Yeah.
Yes, because I had some some sentence in my assignment. I was not sure.
Yeah. Now, well, let's see if we have time. Maybe we could look at one, or we could look at it next week too, once people have submitted. But yes, that, like I said, at the end of the semester, I'm not going to make you analyze the word that because it's very complicated in English. But I promise, there's a whole tutorial in Language Power just about the word that, because it's so powerful in the English language.
Thank you. I did right.
You definitely did, Parisa. You definitely.
Thank you so much.
All right, second little warm up here. So same thing, clauses, NP, VP, and verb forms. So also, he got a certificate from our country because he participated and won against schools from several countries. So the local government has given him an important job. So we've got our conjunction here, our sentence adverb at the beginning. How many clauses do we think right away? Anyone with ideas?
3.
3 clause.
I hear lots of 3. Does anyone disagree?
1, 2,
4.
3.
Ooh, okay. I'll say this. We've got at least 3. Let's see. For people who are thinking 4, let's see if we can find one. So also he got
No, 3.
well, let's see. So where's
Yes,
my first,
3.
where's my first verb?
I thought after and it's a subject, but it wasn't subject.
There you go. I love this class. You guys are, look at how confident you guys are. I love it. Where's my first verb?
Got.
Got.
I agree. And where's my subject?
He.
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 Notice this author keeping it pretty simple with the subject noun phrases. That makes sense, right? We're writing about a person we admire. So just like in your introduction letter, lots of your subject noun clauses were I or me or my. Makes sense, right? I'm writing about my brother. He did that. He does this. All of this makes sense for the way we're writing. So my subject NP is he. Let me make sure you can all see this. And my verb phrase, so where does my clause end?
Country.
Until country. County.
Oh yes, it should
Country.
be, excuse me. So got a certificate from our country. And what's up with the verb forms?
Okay.
Got
Got.
Got.
is the verb, right?
Main
Yes.
verb, yes.
I agree. So that's our first clause. Conjunction because. So because he participated and won against schools from several countries. Where's my verb?
Participated and won.
Participated and won. Yes.
Good. Notice this student really likes the compound verbs, right? Because where's my subject?
He.
Yes.
So same thing again, right? We've only got one subject in the clause, but we do have this compound verb again, connected by the conjunction and. So our subject NP is he. And where's my verb phrase? Participated.
Participate
And
and won.
won against the school from
Against the
several
school from
countries.
several
From several
countries.
countries.
Excellent. And participated, what's going on there? Verb, auxiliary.
Verb and one is also verb.
Excellent. Good. Again, I want to make sure you guys saw more examples of this. I think I only got to show you one of these examples last week. So this is exactly correct. Once again, he is the subject NP. The VP is the rest of the clause all the way to the comma and the next conjunction. And then we'll look at this third clause. So we've got participated is a verb and won is a verb. And our last clause, where's my verb?
As given.
Given.
I heard both words. We'll make them both red.
As an auxiliary.
You know, we're
Has
gonna
as auxiliary, yes.
And where's my noun phrase?
The local government.
The local government.
Local government.
Good. Right. So again, the local government and has given him an important
job.
Good. And what's going on with my verb forms? What do we have?
Has
Yeah.
auxiliary, given.
Given main verb.
Excellent. That's it. I think you guys are going to do very well on grammar writing too, or you already did very well because that's it, right? So, and you guys seemed, I felt like you guys were pretty good with this last week. I mean, this looks great for our short warm up here. So
Honestly, it was a great method to learning.
was it good?
Yes, perfect.
Remember what I said, like week 2 or 3, I think in this class, some students are like, why are we doing this? But I think I even said, remember, by week 8, by week 7, you're going to feel much more comfortable and confident. And this is going to feel much easier to do because now that you see how the parts of the sentence fit together, now we can start to play with some of these, you know, different, we could even say kind of weird or less common verb tenses, right? Because the rest of the sentence, hopefully, you don't have to worry about too much. You feel pretty comfortable. And now we can just focus on how to make these verb tenses and when to use these verb tenses. So I'm really happy that you said that, Pradisa.
Thank you for your hard working.
Thank you for your hard work. I can present all I want, but if you don't practice, you know, so thank you, everybody. If you don't feel comfortable yet and you do have questions, let's stop and talk about it right now before I go to verbs. So any questions about grammar writing 2? Any questions about subject NPs and VPs and verb forms? Anybody, you are more than welcome. Ooh, confidence. I love it. Cool. Well, you know what to do if you do have questions. Email me. All right. So what I want to do to begin with verb tenses today, and remember, we're going to talk about them for a couple weeks at least. We'll see how fast we can go, like usual. But what I want you to do is look at these sentences, and all I want you to think about is correct or incorrect. Are these sentences correct or incorrect? And then to think about why. Okay? First sentence, I'll read through them and then I'll let you think about it. So think about it just for a minute quietly while I read, and then I'm ready to hear from you guys. So number 1, I have gone to the store yesterday.
Incorrect.
Number 2, I have lived in Sacramento for 2 years.
Correct.
Number 3, I live in Japan now. And
Incorrect.
I lived for 38 years. Since 2015, I started school and what?
Incorrect.
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 Ooh, some people, I see some people thinking, maybe correct. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, we don't know.
No, because we use sense, so we have to
Tense
use
it needs-
perfect tense.
Yes, I have started.
Well, let's look at these together. I hear people already have strong opinions, which I love. Okay, so let's look at the first one. I have gone to the store today. Correct or incorrect? Or excuse me.
Correct.
Incorrect.
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 Why? Who says incorrect? And if you think it's incorrect, can you tell me why?
Because
Because
we
we-
used
because-
yesterday.
Let me see. Bibi, go first.
I have gone to the store yesterday. Yesterday shows the past tense.
The
Yeah.
time is finished in the
Yeah.
past.
Good. Parisa says, Bibi says the word yesterday is a big clue. Parisa says
Mm.
it's finished. That word finished. Good. Anybody else?
And also, we can use with have the base form of the verb that I have like go, and also we cannot use I have gone. The gone
We
is
have to
the past participle that we
We have
cannot
to say,
use.
I went to the
And
store.
we can say I went to a store yesterday. That's
I
it.
love, okay, so I'm going to take some notes here and then I'm going to show you the rule like I always do here. But I love what we're
It should
talking
not
about
be
already.
Professor,
Yes,
Professor,
hi, Mir. Mir, do you have a question?
yeah, it should not be clear. It should not be like exact day for I have gone. So the yesterday we can use went. It should not be exact day.
Got it. The word yesterday, the exact or specific day.
Specific, yeah.
There was one other, someone else said
The
something.
past participle.
It's finished. The action is finished. That's what Perdisa said.
Yeah.
Then we talked about, these are all, remember, what I talked about last week with verb tenses is we're practicing how to form them, which we have some practice with, but then when to use them, right? So this is about when. What I love though, that I forget who was talking about this, was how. Now, how to form this is have, auxiliary have, plus what? Someone, I forget, excuse me if I forget who was saying, Zuha, maybe I forget. When we make the present perfect verb tense though, we use auxiliary have and then what form of the verb?
Base
Past
form of the
participle.
verb.
Third form of the word.
Past participle.
Form or past participle?
Oh, past participle. Okay.
Which one?
Base
Part of
form.
the
I
word.
think
I
both
think
are
base
the
form.
same. Both are the
Oh,
same.
past.
Okay, this is excellent. If you're thinking about that, remember, this is the difference between have go, have gone.
Gone. Yeah.
So which one would you use? Have go or
I've
have
gone
The third form
for
of the word.
past perfect.
base form like we reviewed? And I know we did this pretty quickly, but just to make sure it's clear. Base form means the verb by itself, like the infinitive, but with no to, right? So in other grammar classes, maybe you would study, okay, we're going to look at the verb to go. We're going to look at the verb to walk. We're going to look at the verb to talk. Okay, the best way to think about that, to go, that's the infinitive, right? Just
Yeah.
the word go with no S at the end, no past tense, no participle, no ing. That's what we're calling base form. So base form would be have go, but I'm going to draw a line through this to make sure this is clear, not this one.
Yeah.
Because how do we make the present perfect? Is exactly what Bibi and then eventually Parisa was saying too, or Zuhal said, right? Eventually, the how to make the present perfect is have and the past participle. Now, so if I ask you the how in this sentence, did I make the verb tense correctly? Like, is that grammar in that sentence, the spelling, everything, that looks correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Exactly correct, baby.
Yes.
This, I want to get used to this idea when we're thinking about this for the rest of the semester. It's not just how to make it, right? It's when you use it. Because even if you make the verb tense correctly, I've got auxiliary have, I've got the past participle. If you're using it even if you use, I think Mir was saying this, Bibi was talking about the word yesterday. If you use it at the wrong time, the grammar in your sentence will still be incorrect because it makes the meaning incorrect. Now I'm going to duplicate this slide. So people were saying, so I'm going to get rid of this. That's on the last slide for you to review. But so we talked about some of the clues that let us know that we shouldn't use the present perfect here. So some of the clues people talked about were the word yesterday, the exact or specific day is mentioned, and the action is finished. So when we have the word yesterday and the action is finished, some of you have already said this, but repeat it for me. What verb tense should we use?
Present past tense. No,
Yeah.
past tense. Yeah.
Simple past. Simple
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right. So when we've got the word yesterday, a specific date and time, like Mir said, and we've got action that is finished, it is completely done, then that is absolutely correct, right? What we really want is, I went to the store yesterday. Or yesterday, comma, I went to the store. Remember, we can use and move these adverbs of time in lots of different places in the sentence, right? And I think sometimes it just takes practice to see where and how we can use it. Now I'm going to do the short explainer rule here, right? Simple past because the action is finished. And we have a specific day or time. And as you guys said, that was yesterday in this example. Good. Okay. Does this make sense? I think for a lot of people, this is review. In 50 level, you've probably already looked at the difference of present perfect and simple past, which is great because we start here and then we start to look about, ooh, okay, but when should I use the present perfect progressive? Or when should I use past perfect instead of present perfect, right? Those are slightly different, right? Those are slightly different. I'm going to make this blue for you guys. Okay, so any questions about this first sentence?
I have a question,
Please.
Professor. Can we use I have gone for the perfect tense? What is when we can use this one? Like, for example, I'm not in this place, so I can say I have gone from here.
Yep.
Or I'm on the phone and say I have gone.
Yep.
When we can use this? How I have gone.
For example, what do you think? And I'm asking now, how does this look to you guys? Have you gone to the new grocery store in Auburn yet? How does this look?
Have you gone to? Yeah.
Yes, I have gone
Yeah.
for several days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you go to the How about this?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
And what do you think? Do these both look good? Does one look better? What do you think?
Both of them are good, Professor.
I think
Have you gone? That mean maybe you go there for several times, or did you?
One of them, last one is like past tense, but it's like I mean like finish it, right?
Yep. It's
And first one is like it's a question like it's not it's still continue, right?
Yep. Well, here's why I'm going to write a note here at the end. Here's why studying verb tenses in English is so difficult. These are all grammatically correct. Like, that's just the truth, you guys. The grammar is all correct. Now, I will tell you, I'll always just tell you, right? I think, did you go to the new grocery store? Oh, excuse me, yet?
Yeah. Oh, yet is not.
Say what?
So we use yet with the perfect tense, but
I think the first sentence just makes sense a little.
I
the
think
third one is correct.
I think the first sentence.
Both of them is correct, but I think the first one,
sentence
yeah.
is more correct. I think if
Yes.
you're asking ever, we're going to talk about since and never and for and ever.
Ever,
today.
yes.
When you use some of those adverbs, those are usually big clues, right? Ooh, present perfect. You might use the present perfect here. But I do want to show you, because Bibi's question was great, right? This, did you go to the new grocery store in Auburn yet? This is not wrong. And if you ask a person, an English speaking person in Sacramento, if you ask this question, they will know exactly what you're talking about. It will not sound incorrect to them. And that's why, again, when you look in your grammar textbook and a grammar textbook says, oh, you know, actions that started in the past and continued into the present always use the present perfect. Well, I mean, yes, in a perfect textbook world, you know, but the way we actually use the language here, this does not look incorrect at all. But I agree with everybody who says to me, this looks better, right? This looks better. Now, but how about this?
And I think the second one is talking about the thing that is going to happen. It's the present thing that is going to happen.
It's, well, interesting. Esther's talking about asking about, will you go or do you plan to go? I just wanted to show you one more example here. I'll put all four of them in the example. Notice if we change the verb, just the verb by itself, not even the verb tense. Did you go to the new grocery store in Auburn yet? Did you visit the new grocery store in Auburn yet? Does one of these look better to you?
Did you visit is looking better.
I agree.
No.
But you see, you guys, how that is weird, right? The verb tense is the same. It's just which verb we use to talk, you know, to think about this example sentence. So what I'll say for this is kind of like a general rule that I'm going to suggest for you guys, especially as we start practicing verb tenses. Because you often can use more than one verb tense correctly. Just try it in your own writing, try it in the discussions, try it when you're analyzing your sentences, and let me look at it, right? Because this is why I don't use a lot of, you know, you're going to use some sort of fill in the blank quiz practice stuff. You're going to do that in Canvas. But I think it's even more important to look at your own writing and practice choosing which verb tense, because these examples show you, okay, let's say this is the most correct. Have you gone to the new grocery store in Auburn yet? This one is the second most correct because we changed the verb. We use visit instead of go. And for whatever reason, this feels better. And I do think it does. But did you go to the new grocery store in Auburn yet? I still think the grammar is fine. I would not mark that as an incorrect grammatical sentence. I would not. I don't think the grammar is incorrect and the meaning still makes sense. So, so Bibi is asking about, okay, when and how can we use go in the present perfect? I mean, the best way to use this is, we could make this even clearer.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, ever, I've got some more examples on the slides here, but ever is a big clue. For the native speaker, for the native English speaker, the word ever feels like it should always be present perfect, right? So you could frame it that way, Bibi, like, okay, I want to know how to use go in the past perfect. Have you ever gone to Disneyland? Have you ever gone to Sacramento? Have you ever gone to New York City? Whatever. But again, Bibi, you could say, have you ever visited New York City, right? So there's a lot of freedom to choose. Does that make sense, Bibi?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a really great question. Any questions about Bibi's great question or these example sentences before we look at the next sentence? Great questions, you guys. Okay, next one. I have lived in Sacramento for 2 years. Correct or incorrect?
Yes, correct.
Bibi says correct. Do we agree or disagree with Bibi? You can speak or type in the chat.
Yeah.
It's correct.
It's correct.
Esther says
Yes.
correct. If it's correct, let me ask you this. When did I start living in Sacramento?
When did I start?
If I read this sentence, when did I start? This is the most important thing to understand about the present perfect, right? Because this is about when we use it. So if this sentence is correct, if the grammar is good, then we need to understand what information we are sharing or reading, if we're speaking, what we're saying, or if we're reading or listening, what we're receiving from other people. There's important information in this sentence, and that's why we use this verb tense. So when did I start living in Sacramento?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yes, I
Oh,
go.
thank you. Where was I living 1 year ago?
Sacramento.
In Sacramento.
In Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Yes. Where was I living yesterday?
In
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Sacramento.
Where am I living right now?
Sacramento.
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 Thank you. Where was I living 3 years ago?
In my home country.
Sacramento.
Okay, let me ask you this way. Do we know?
No.
Thank you. That's the real answer. I wasn't trying to trick you, but that is, hold on, my computer's being slow here. But that's the real answer, you guys. We don't know. Oh, my computer's being really slow, excuse me. We don't know, right? So you are all correct. The grammar here is great. But remember, one reason that I think students can feel like the present perfect is difficult is because they're not sure what information they are sharing when they use it, right? That's a lot of information to share in just one simple sentence. But if I say I have lived in Sacramento for 2 years, it means I moved to Sacramento 2 years ago. I've been living there the entire time, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 1 year ago, a month ago, today. And there's information about the past, which is before 2 years ago, I don't know, right? I don't know. So all of that is important information when we're talking about things with, and I'll start to do this because we're looking at for and since, right? And when we say some specific length of time, or as we'll see on the next slide, when we talk about a specific day, a specific month, a specific year. So the grammar for this sentence makes sense, but questions first, questions. Okay, good.
Is it in slide, Professor?
Say what?
Is it in slide? And
This one?
yeah, this page.
PowerPoint, yeah.
And PowerPoint slides.
Yeah, which?
All these questions and this.
You will put in
Oh,
PowerPoint.
like always, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Everything that I'm showing you right now is always saved. Yeah, it'll be there. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's look at this example as an opposite one. I think a lot of people, when I showed it, you guys said this is incorrect. So I live in Japan now, and I have been living in California for 38 years. Correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Why?
Because in the first sentence it used now.
Now,
It means
yeah.
now, right now. But it is used simple tense.
So where do I live now?
It has to
In
use
California.
present
In Japan.
continuous.
Yep. So where did I live? Now,
In California.
and this is the thing, right? It gets more complicated, right? So if I live in Japan now, so yes, good. I'm happy. We'll look at the present perfect continuous more, but yes. So here's this rule, right? Because I say I live in Japan now, and then I've got a coordinated conjunction, right? It makes it sound like the two ideas are going to be connected. But here's the rule we're practicing and that I'm introducing before you start to practice present perfect progressive, present perfect continuous. If I live in Japan now, then I can't use the present perfect progressive to talk about California because I can't live in both places at the same exact time, right? So this is true because we can only use the present perfect and the present perfect continuous to talk about things that are still true or happening in the present moment, right? So how could we fix this as an example sentence? I live in Japan now, and I have been living where?
In Japan.
In
There.
Japan.
Good. Exactly. Right. So if I say I live in Japan now, and I've been living there for 38 years, now my sentence is fine, right? Now this makes total sense. How could we fix this sentence, for example? If I say I live in Japan now, what verb tense could we use here?
Live in past tense.
Yeah, so what would that be,
In past tense, right?
Yep, what would it be?
I
have
live
been
in.
Excellent. And we could probably, if we did that, we could probably say but instead of and, right? Oh, I live in Japan now, but I lived in California for 38 years, right? So again, it's really important now that you can understand clauses. You see how clauses are connected and how they give meaning to the sentence. We really need to start thinking about how the verb tenses that we use, even in the same sentence, share and communicate information, right? So I'm going to put a line through this one to show you this one is incorrect. We can't do that. And here's how we could fix it. Or we could fix it. Right. Either one of these, if we change it this way, now we have a sentence where the grammar is absolutely correct.
I have a
Can we
question,
say,
Professor.
Please, question. Let's talk about it.
In the first sentence, which tense you use? I live in Japan now.
Yep. Well, we could, if you're still, what do you want to imagine? If we imagine.
I mean, wait, no, we can use now with simple tense.
Oh, yeah. Why do we use the simple here?
I mean, I'm confused with this. I think it should be, I'm living in Japan now. Can you say?
Yes. Now, okay, Parisa is bringing up something that I am already ready to talk about with the present perfect and the present perfect progressive. Because again, what do you guys think? I live in Japan now. I am living in Japan now. Both correct? Both incorrect? What do we think? What do you think, Parisa?
I think I live in Japan now. It's like answering a question if somebody asks you.
Esther. So what would you
But
say?
it has to be like, if it's question, it has to be like, I am first, if it's question, right?
This is the thing. This is again why teaching verb tenses is so difficult when we're not just filling in the blanks like in textbooks, right? Because here's the truth. Right? Both are 100% correct, right? The only difference is the feeling or the emphasis. This is a word you're going to hear me say a lot when we talk about the verb tenses. Because here's the difference. Do we know this word emphasis, what it means?
Yes.
What's it mean, Pratisa?
To insist on something.
It's hard to explain, huh?
Yes.
We could say emphasis is the special importance, right? Or special attention that we give to something. So the example sentence, the emphasis in this drill is on using proper technique. So if the emphasis is proper technique, that means this time we really want to focus on the technique, right? Or our candidate's plan has a different emphasis. So maybe in one plan, they're emphasizing a project for a park in Sacramento, and other people are emphasizing a new building in an office building, right? These are different things to emphasize, right? So here's the rule. When you use the progressive or continuous, let's say continuous, you are emphasizing the ongoing nature of the action. And this is, again, this is the best way that I can explain this rule, you guys. And I feel like a pretty good grammar teacher, but I still think it's hard for me to explain what I mean when I say this. So we just have to keep practicing. But the thing to remember is, if I say, oh, I live in Japan, what I'm emphasizing is that this is my habit, right? This is something that is generally true. And I think Parisa even, this was Parisa's question, but of course, if you say, I'm speaking English right now, I am speaking English, but I can say to you truthfully, right? I speak English and I speak Spanish, right? Or you guys can say, I speak Arabic and I speak English. I speak Persian and I speak English. I speak Dari and I speak English, right? But even if you say, I speak Dari and you're speaking in English, that's something that's always or generally true, right? But when I say I am speaking right now in English, I'm using the present continuous to emphasize the action that is happening now. When I say I speak English and Spanish, I'm talking about generally habits that are always true. Does that make a little sense, Parisa?
Yes, yes. Perfect.
Yes.
So that's why, but to your great question, if I say I'm living in Japan now, that is true. That is emphasizing the action that is ongoing in the.
You mean you are during the action?
Yes. And I will tell you, as a native speaker, though, the feeling that I get, and this might not always be true, but as a native speaker, if I said, hey, Parisa, where do you live, right? Where do you live, present tense? And you said, ooh, right now I'm living in Sacramento, then my native speaker brain goes, okay, she is living there now, but maybe she has plans. Maybe she will move somewhere else, right? Because she's emphasizing right now, she's not using the present simple, which we use to talk about kind of always true or generally true. Now, again, that example, you guys, is like this is a very detailed difference I'm talking about, because both are correct, right? If you go to a store in Sacramento, you talk to an American and they ask, hey, where do you live? And you say, oh, I'm living in Sacramento. They're going to say, great. Do you like it? Right? They're not going to say, oh, you're only living there temporarily in the present. They won't, that it will feel like a very normal answer. But I do want you to start to practice feeling the difference between the simple tenses and the continuous tenses, because choosing ing will give native speakers a slightly different feeling. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that help, Parisa, a little bit?
Yes, I totally
Thank you,
understand.
Professor.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, you could say something like, just as an example, right? So, and again, I think this, if you're going to talk about right now, this ongoing action is happening, and then you're going to talk about plans in the future, probably more common, more normal to hear native speakers use the continuous in that tense. So that's a little bit of the difference there. That's a little bit of the difference. Good. Any other questions? Because this, Parisa, thank you for asking. We're going to see it when we look at present perfect continuous here, right? Students are going to be like, Jeff, can I use just present perfect there? Yeah, you can. So it's a great question, and we'll see lots more examples of it. Anything else about this one, about Parisa's great question? Cool. Let's look at these three. And it kind of connects to Parisa's question as well. So we've got three sentences here. I lived in Sacramento, and I'm going back to for and since, because I've got slides for that too before. So I lived in Sacramento for 2 years. I have lived in Sacramento for 2 years. I have been living in Sacramento for 2 years. And my question here is, do I still live in Sacramento now? Remember, I'm going back to when do we use these verb tenses before we talk about how to make them. So in sentence number 1, I lived in Sacramento for 2 years. Do I still live in Sacramento now?
No,
No.
because you already live.
I agree. I have lived in Sacramento for 2 years. Do I still live in Sacramento right now?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Or
Agree.
maybe.
Ooh.
Yes, yes.
Or I heard someone say yes. Maybe. Yes, if I say I have lived for 2 years, then this sentence is going to communicate. This is like what we did a second ago, right? This is like this one. This is, well, I started 2 years ago. I lived there a year ago. I lived there a month ago. I lived there yesterday. So that's like this sentence, right? So yes, I do live in Sacramento. And how about the third one? I have been living in Sacramento for 2 years. Do I still live there right now?
Yes.
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 Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, what we're going to practice on the next slide is the difference between I have lived in Sacramento, I have been living in Sacramento. This is what I just said, right? This is exactly Paris's question, but instead of simple present or present continuous, now we're thinking present perfect continuous, right? But first, let's review just really quickly how to make the tense, right? So in have lived, I just have base form plus what? To make the simple past.
Yes, ed.
Yeah.
Simple past. Yes.
Base form plus ed, right? Now, I know for many verbs, we have irregular past tense verbs, but again, you already know that. You know how that goes. But the basic rule for how to make them, right? These are all how. Let me make sure I make that clear here. But these are those how rules. Excuse me.
Have or hasn't.
Good. And how about for present perfect? How do I make present perfect? What do I have here?
Have plus
past
third form.
participle. This
Exactly.
Third form.
Auxiliary plus.
Past participle. Right? And in these sentences, in the example above, that's have lived.
Live.
And in this sentence, that's just live. And how about in the last one here? I have been living in Sacramento for 2 years. How did we do this?
Being
present
plus.
perfect
Have
continuous.
plus
Well, we've got
Uh,
auxiliary.
be.
Just like that.
ing.
What do we have here?
Have has been plus
Been.
Being plus ing. Yes.
And we can say been, but I will give you some even more interesting information. This is,
Bring me my backpack here and I'll be.
I'm going to mute you because I can hear your son talking about their backpack. If we have this verb tense here, I've got auxiliary have, and then I've got auxiliary been. But just so you know here, the auxiliary been is even we're going to call this the past participle be, right? This is like the past participle form of be. But again, it is almost always going to be have been, whatever. And then what do we have here? We have living. So what are we calling
ing.
the verb? ing. But in this class, what do we call it?
Base form of the verb ing.
Progressive.
Past participle or present participle?
Present.
Present participle.
Yes. Excellent, right? So present participle. And the example that is in our sentence here, we've got have been living, right? I'm going to make this a little smaller so they all fit on the line. Good. So I just wanted to make sure you'll review this in Language Power. I've got videos for you. You're going to practice it in Canvas. But again, just so we have at least one clear slide with how. Forgive me, you guys. Oh, I got all kinds of boxes. No wonder. There we go. Just so you see the how, right? How to make them. The simple past is just base form plus ed. The present perfect is auxiliary have plus the past participle. And when we start to practice the present perfect progressive, the way that we make it is auxiliary have, auxiliary been, and then the present participle of the verb. I think my internet's getting slow again. Excuse me. You guys still with me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My internet's getting, or maybe it's my computer is tired like I am. Questions about this slide before we start to practice a little bit? But questions?
Oh. Still, what's different between I have lived or I have been living? Is
Yeah.
still emphasizing for?
That's what we're going to talk about next, Bibi.
Okay.
Yeah, but the short answer is you're on it. Really, it is about emphasis because both are grammatically correct and both give me the same information, right? When did I move? 2 years ago. Where was I living a year ago? Sacramento. Where was I living a month ago? Sacramento. Where was I living yesterday? Sacramento. All of that information that we reviewed on this first, excuse me, all of that is still true. It's just, there it is. All of this information is still true for have lived, have been living,
Yes.
but it's about emphasis. It is about that word emphasis, Bibi. It absolutely is. Okay. So I wanted to do a quick review and show you some examples before we practice with present perfect continuous and for and since. So just like we were talking about the difference between the base verb go and visit and how that can give a native speaker a slightly different feeling in the verb tenses, some things to remember. Some verbs do not like to be in the perfect tenses because the action usually doesn't continue, right? Some verbs, some actions give that feeling of, well, you do it once and it's done. So we really don't have the present perfect used very often. Now, this is especially true when there are time words or specific dates. So, for example, I have founded my company in 2010, and founded here is not like finding something at the beach. Founded means you created it, right? So if you're talking about a new business or a new restaurant, you ever see something like, oh, I'll show you actually. So if you look at something like, this is about our college, right? Where we all go to school. This history says, let's see if we've got it. Established, right? Opened, founded. I was going to see if the word founded is in the title. But notice I Googled American River College founded date, and it gives me 1955, founded. And that means when it was created, when it was started. And that idea of creating a business, creating a school, that is usually something that happened once and it's done. So we use the present simple tense. So a sentence like, I have founded my company in 2010 is wrong. And we just say, I founded my company. Right now, simple past makes more sense. Or, I have started taking classes in 2010. Why is this wrong?
Because of a story.
Because it's a specific time.
And specific time. And Parisa said started, because usually is started something that you can only do once, or do you keep starting something over and over? Which one? Only once or many times?
Only once.
Usually, usually, right? I mean, usually you'll say, oh, I started learning English in 2010. Okay, so that means the first time you ever started, the first time you ever tried, and that's why it really likes the simple past and not the present perfect. More examples here. I have learned the lesson in 2010. Usually we learn something or we don't learn it, right? Now you might say, I started learning, okay. Or I started studying, okay. That feels a little bit better. But I have learned this 2 years ago, I learned it, it's done. Now I'm learning something else. Right. So again, I'm just trying to show you examples of verbs that don't usually like the present perfect. So founded, found, to found, start, to start, learn, to learn. I have understood the idea in 2020, excuse me. And in 2020, I have done my citizenship interview. Hopefully another great example, because the citizenship interview, usually, inshallah, please Lord, you do it one time. Once, right? So does this make sense? These examples of when you're thinking about simple past or present perfect, we have to think about a lot of things, right? It's not just how to form it. It's not just for and since and when. This is like BB's great question about go versus visit, right? Some verbs, they like the present perfect. Some verbs don't. Some verbs really like the simple past better. Makes sense. Questions? And then I want to talk about BB's present perfect versus present perfect continuous, because it is an important idea. Makes sense. Questions about this slide? Cool. Next slide. So a lot of what, this is just a summary of what I just said, but like people were asking, here it is in the PowerPoint for you. So quick review of simple past versus the present perfect. We use the simple past for past events or actions, which are, oh my goodness, excuse me, you guys, which are completely done and have no connection to the present. I founded my company. It's done. We use the present perfect for actions which started in the past and are still happening now, or for finished actions which have a connection to the present. And we can't use the present perfect with time words that show or prove completion. So just like we saw at the beginning, right? It's not I've been to the museum yesterday. Well, you can say I've been to the museum, period. Or you can say I went to the museum, but not I've been to the museum yesterday. This is kind of one of those rules that it's important to understand. I think a lot of you that were speaking at least already get this, but you need to get this feeling into your, so that it feels comfortable to you, right? I have visited 2 years ago. I have been yesterday. This is like BB and Mir were saying, right? Specific day, specific time in the past, probably going to be the simple past, right? Probably going to be.
Can we say several days ago?
Tell me.
Several days ago.
What? And then give me, how about
at the end of I have been to the museum.
What do you guys think? Nope.
No.
Yeah. Just give me the simple past.
Or we can go, I have been in the museum several times in last week.
Sure, I like that. I like that. Let's
Can say several times, yeah.
2 years ago, I went to the museum. 50 years ago, I went to the museum. I have been to the museum several times. I have been to the museum twice. I went to the museum twice. Right? This is why these verb tenses are hard for you guys. I know it's not making them, right? It's about when and how we use them. Excuse me, it's about when we use them. So I have been to the museum several times. That's fine. Do we know we don't know when the first time was, but we know you've gone at least twice in the past, and that is still true, because this, by the way, this example sentence is almost that ever, right? This is almost, have you ever been to the museum? Yes, I have been several times, right? I have been several times. But now we're talking about one specific time, right? 50 years ago, time phrase. 2 years ago, time phrase. Several days ago, time phrase. I went to the museum. And here's this tricky difficulty that we saw at the beginning of class. I've been to the museum twice. I went to the museum twice last year. And this is the middle ground. I went to the museum twice. This is like, probably, you're taking 310. Some of you are in my 325. So at 325 level, if you're writing an essay in college, you probably don't want to say this sentence. I went to the museum twice without a time word, right? Without a specific year, a specific date or whatever. But if you're walking around Sacramento, I promise you guys, you're going to hear people say this. Have you ever been to the museum? I went to the museum twice. I went to the museum a couple times. Very, very normal American English speech. Very, very normal. So that's my warning to you guys. You'll hear it. It's not totally wrong, but it's not perfectly right. I think this is perfectly right. I've been to the museum twice. I went to the museum twice last year. Oh, now some specific date. So again, perfectly correct. This is that gray area. This is that gray area. Great question, Parisa. Other questions about these present perfect and simple past examples? Perfect. So I'll tell you right now, or if you're watching the recording, we'll start the past perfect next week. We're not going to do past perfect today because I want to make sure we finish up with some review of present perfect and the present perfect progressive. So this is like Bibi's question. So this is another example of simple past versus some of these other tenses. I lived in Paris. If I say I lived in Paris, do I know when? Do we know when we lived in Paris?
No.
Right? Could be yesterday, could be 50 years ago. We have no idea. But we also know I lived in Paris. We don't know when, but we also know, do I live in Paris now?
Yes.
No.
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 I'm so glad that I do these little, short reviews. Remember, the other important information you're communicating, if you say this in the simple past, I lived in Paris, period. Okay, I lived in Paris many years ago. We don't know when. And if you say that to an English speaker, they're going to go, you don't live there now, right? Important to understand these things. I have been living in Paris since 1999, right? So in this sentence, when did I start living in Paris?
In 1999.
And
Excellent.
still you live.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And where did I live in 2005?
In Paris.
Good. Where did I live in 2010?
In Paris.
Where did I live in 2020?
In Paris.
Where do I live today?
Very much.
I know that these questions sound, if they feel easy, that's good. But remember, when you're using these verb tenses, this is what you're communicating. Or when you're reading these verb tenses, this is the information you need to understand. Now, I have been living in Paris for 3 months. Okay. When did I move to Paris?
3 months ago.
Excellent. Where did I live 3 months ago?
We don't know.
In Paris.
3 months ago.
In Paris.
Yes, thank you. Where did I live last month?
In Paris.
In Paris.
Bibi, where did I live 4 months ago?
I don't know.
No.
Excellent. Perfect. Perfect. Right?
Maybe in California.
Maybe. I know. So more actually, I don't want to do past perfect yet. I want to do one more slide to show you the examples here. So now I wanted to show you this. This is Bibi's question. This is like Parisa's question too. These two sentences, how do they look to us? I have lived in Paris. I have been living in Paris. First, does the grammar look correct for one of them or both of them? What do you think?
Both of them are
correct.
Good. And now here's where we're going to do these same questions. I have lived in Paris.
You lived in Paris, but right now you don't live in Paris.
You're going exactly where I want to go. That's exactly why I wanted to talk about the difference, right? Because the difference is going to explain when we use the other one. So again, I've lived in Paris. Do I live in Paris now?
Yes.
No.
No, I have lived in Paris. Yeah, you're living in Paris. Oh,
No,
No.
you didn't live in Paris right now.
This is why these tenses are so hard. Let me
Yes.
copy and paste here. I'll say this. Sorry while I'm formatting you guys. Do I live in Paris now? No.
I have lived in Paris.
Again, remember, when you use the present simple tense here like this, I have lived in Paris, I have studied English, I have visited Russia, I have talked to my teacher. If you say this as a general statement, right, I have lived in Paris, then what the listener in English is going to hear is that ever word. Have you ever lived in Paris? Yes, I have. Well, that makes it sound like an ever question, which makes it sound like you don't live there now, right? But if I say, now here's the important difference. Do I live in Paris in this sentence? I have lived in Paris
Yes.
since 2020.
Yes. Yes.
And this is why time words are so important for choosing verb tenses here, right, you guys? Because the time word since changes everything. How about in this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And again, this is, hold on, let me make the colors more clear for you guys here so we can see them better. Right, so it's always going to be how much information you include in your clauses and what information do you want to share with your listener. That will help you determine, do you want present perfect or do you want present perfect progressive, right? So if I say a question like this, let's do this and then we'll finish. We're going to talk much more about this next week. But how about this example sentence? How does the grammar work here? Have you ever lived outside of the United States? How long have you been living in the United States? How does the grammar look for these two questions?
Correct.
Correct.
Great.
Good.
Correct.
I agree. And now what's the big clue in this sentence? What's the big clue with why we should use present perfect here? There's one word. Give me one word.
Ever.
Ever.
You. This class is amazing. And there's two words that are a big clue for why I'm using present perfect progressive here. What are they?
Been living.
Have
Be
been.
living.
Good. And actually give me not the verb tense, not the verb tense. I'll just tell you.
How long?
How long?
These questions of how long, how many, how long, how many years, how many months, how many days. So how long, how many, also big clue for continuous tenses. Progressive.
You mean when somebody asks us with this, how long and how many, we have to answer in present progressive, yeah? Present perfect progressive.
It will, and if they ask the question, right? But also if they ask this question, or if you just start, if you want to share this information, right? Now, part of this is about style, right? Because like I was saying, emphasis. If you're writing your letter to me at the beginning of the semester, remember, you can say, I live in Sacramento, perfectly correct. You can say, I have lived in Sacramento for 3 years, perfectly correct. I have been living in my beautiful home in Sacramento since 2019. Perfectly correct, right? All of those things are about the feeling and the style and what you want to emphasize to your reader, right? So this is again why the verb tenses at this can feel more difficult, because even if you've got the great verb tense, you can, the grammar in the sentence can be fine. What my goal is for you as we continue to talk about verb tenses for the rest of the semester is I want to show you examples so that you can decide which verb tense you want to use to give the reader a specific feeling, right? Because I know all of you guys now. You guys are doing amazing work. Your grammar is going to be fine in the simple present or the continuous or the present perfect. What I want you to feel more comfortable doing is choosing the best verb tense for that specific situation, right? So if you're talking about how long, something has been happening or how long you've been doing some action, the present perfect continuous is a great verb tense, right? Oh, you study English. When did you start? Oh, I started in 2010 and I have been studying since then. What I'm emphasizing is I started and I've still been working, right? I've still been studying for that whole time. So you can use the present simple to introduce an idea, right? And if you want to emphasize the action, that's when you get to use some of these continuous tenses, including the present perfect progressive, right? And again, I know I'm sort of throwing this out at you just today, but we're gonna, just like with the verb tenses and what we started with in the semester, we'll really get to keep practicing with the verb tenses. So if you're like, oh my God, Jeff, we just did like 4 verb tenses, we'll get to practice more next week and the week after, okay? Does this make sense? For and since?
Yes.
I hope so. Let me
Yes,
show you let me show you what's new in Canvas, okay? So I'll show you in Canvas, lesson 14, 15, and 16 are open. There's no due date. I don't expect you to do all 3 before next week. We've got plenty of time, but these are going to help you get more practice with for and since, and especially give you some more practice with present perfect versus the simple past. And then next week, again, most of my lesson is going to be about present perfect continuous, present perfect progressive, and simple past, everybody's favorite verb tense, the simple past. So if you look in Canvas, I'm going to change to student view. I think by next week, you guys are going to like simple past. It's very useful. It's useful in one specific situation, but if you need to write or talk about that situation, it's very, very helpful. So if you go to modules, I rearranged some stuff so that it would be more clear, I hope. But so here again, everything, the same lessons are there, but I put them into different groups. So learning the class, parts of speech, you already did this. Clauses and sentences, you did this. So here's the verbs. I also wanted to say, I've got my recording for Language Power Tutorial 19 and Tutorial 24, all about verb tenses. So if you want more explanation from me about the verb tenses, you can do that. I've also got just a couple pages of other ESL textbooks that will help you review some of these rules. Now, I might show you a little bit of this in class. You don't need to read this stuff, but if you want more examples and more practice about the verb tenses that I'm talking about, you can look at these 2 PDFs. And then here are the lessons, right? For and since, present perfect versus the simple past, and more simple past versus present perfect. So this is here for you to start practicing. I'm going to talk much more about this for the next 2 weeks, especially as we get ready to study the past perfect. And if we go fast, maybe we can look at some of the even weirder ones, you know, future perfect progressive or past perfect progressive. I had been living. We'll talk about that more next week. Any questions at all before we finish up for today? Cool. Well, all this verb stuff is here for you. Please, if you have the time, watch my videos for you, review some of these rules, and you can start practicing the lessons in Canvas at your own speed. All right.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Have a great time.
Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Thank you, Parisa. And
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Someone wants
Good
to say
night.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
Peekaboo.
Bye-bye.
Peekaboo.
Please say bye-bye.
Bye, Zuhal.
Bye.
Have a good night, Professor.
Good night, you too, Ina. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will do it. My old stuff.
I know you, Bill. I'm not worried about you.
Thank you, Professor.
I'm going to stop my sharing and recording because I see Fauzia has a question. So let me stop my recording real quick and then I'm here for you, Fauzia.